Welcome everyone to season 2, the episode number 3 of the WisMissus podcast, reading, writing, and roaming around Wisconsin, the Midwest, and beyond. There, I'll pat myself on the back that I said that all correctly. And I'm here with the lovely
T.K. Sheffield. I write books for readers who want to laugh and escape. We are recording live on my end from the Backyard Model Studio, which is my office closet. And today we have a special topic.
Yes, we do. So I am Valerie Biel, and I am an award-winning author and also a book marketing professional. Today, though, as TK mentions, we are taking part in something called PODCASTHON. This is with a number of other podcasts. We're all banding together, 1,500 plus podcasts. I didn't realize it was so many who are around the world talking about the charity of their choice today. And we're highlighting that and using the space that we have. So we are interrupting our regular programming to bring you this special thing. But so everyone that is taking part, all the podcasts taking part are doing this in 2 weeks in March. And this podcast you are now seeing, this is coming out on Friday the 21st is the day that you're seeing this podcast. And I will link to the main page of this podcast so that if anybody's interested in seeing some of the other ones, but it's perhaps if you are an avid podcast listener, you have come across this with one of your other favorite podcasts. But we are going to start with our normal stuff, our reading, writing, and roaming, right? I don't want to give that up because I'm always curious what you're reading. Have you read anything really fun and interesting you'd like everybody to know about?
Yes. I did an event at a wonderful place in Mineral Point, Wisconsin called Republic of Letters. It is a bookshop with a kitchen behind it called the Book Kitchen. Fabulous concept, wonderful people, highly recommended, beautiful area in the Driftless area, southwest Wisconsin. So that's Republic of Letters Book Kitchen. Well, they went and did a thing, which is they produced a book called The Wisconsin Way Cheese Making in the Driftless.
So if you are just listening to us and you did not see the book that was held up, it's not Way, W-A-Y, it's Wisconsin Way, as in curds and whey, W-H-E-Y.
Yes. And it has got a foreword by Jerry Epps. If you know anything about, Wisconsin literature, he is, the OG, if you will. But it has got some wonderful interviews with cheesemakers from the Southwest Wisconsin area. You probably have had their cheese. It's beautifully done by Little Creek Press in Mineral Point with Kristen Mitchell. And I can't recommend it enough. It's written by Judy Newman Coburn. If you ever remember anything about Wisconsin radio news, Judy Newman was the voice, right?
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh, I have got to get myself a copy of that. That is a fun book.
Yes, highly recommended. What about you?
Well, and that's so appropriate. Here we are, the WisMissus. We should be talking about a book written in Wisconsin. I mean, whatever. So the book that I recently read, it is out this week by Sarah Lynn Richard, and it is Mrs. Oliver's Twist. And the cover, I'm sorry, nice. A picture for those of you watching us. The cover has like a martini glass with, like twist, right? But the twists are many more than that, right? It's just such a wonderful book. It is book 2 in a series, but she wrote this so well that even though I had not yet read book 1, I was filled in all the way along and was not confused about who was who, and you got enough of the backstory, but it's so delightful. I will, of course, now go back and catch up and read book 1. So Mrs. Oliver's Twist by Sarah Lynn Richard. So that's my book recommendation. And then writing. So do we want to talk about our writing right now? Or do we want to just go ahead if you want to? I mean, I know it's like we're both in a little bit of a spot. So
well, I have good news and bad, right? So 2026 is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. 2025 is where all the work is done. So let's just put it that way. Oh, and there's one more thing I do have to mention. I'm a horse girl, had horses all my life. And I love Mackinac Island. So I went and did a thing. I wrote a story about a pony on Mackinac.
Look at you, hold it up again, just for everybody if you're seeing. So
it's called Nellie's Island.
Oh, and it's got a horse on a
Yes.
ferry
She's
coming
a
on that.
pony.
Oh,
She's small and she's frustrated and she goes to Mackinac among the big draft horses and earns her filly esteem and embraces who she is. And, it's a feel-good story about a kid or a pony accepting who they are. So, and it takes
oh,
place on wonderful, special, fabulous Mackinac Island.
okay. So for those of you who are from outside the Midwest and don't know about Mackinac Island, it is an island you can only get to by ferry from either, the lower peninsula of Michigan or from the UP. Like you can get a ferry from either spot, I think, right?
Yep.
And then it is a non-auto island, right?
Right.
Like it's
Oh, it's
only,
only horses, buggies, bikes, or walking.
yeah,
And
right.
it's got the Grand Hotel, the longest porch in the world.
It's
Travel and Leisure
beautiful.
has voted, it has consistently earned #1 island travel destination in the US by Travel and Leisure. I think special place, I mean historic. It's got the Fort Mackinac there, Grand Hotel, and then just the clip clop of horses. You wake up in the morning and you hear clip clop, clip clop, clip clop, and it just becomes the norm and time slows down and you spend, you have tea at the Grand Hotel and you shop and walk and get your exercise better than Disney. If you don't, you
I
know,
adore it. I mean, I have not been there. Oh, I've been there maybe, I don't know, maybe like 3 times. But it is, a special place in the Midwest.
yeah,
We're lucky to have it. And
yeah,
it's interesting too, because, for it to be voted that special of an island, I mean, we've got a lot of other islands in the
right,
nation, but this one
right,
is very unique, very special. And I've always wondered what it would be like to winter there
right.
because they're all
I know.
permanent residents, right?
Yes,
And
they do. They have a
yeah.
school, they have permanent residence. The place has to be kept going, right? You have to keep the buildings warm and you have to keep, there are things that you need to get done. They still have a few horses over on the island during the winter. Most of them come off. If you've ever seen the ferry, going over unloading the horses, you can find it on YouTube. I mean, it's a throwback in time. And
Yeah,
it's a very special place. But yeah, wintering over, seeing in the snowfall, oh my goodness. There's a Instagram fellow who shows, going through all the trails. And then there's something on YouTube as well. You can watch one of those channels where it's just music and then, you're traveling through the island. Oh, beautiful.
I'll try to find that and put that in the show notes.
Okay.
So you've held up this beautiful picture book. Do you have news about this picture book or
Well,
what?
this will be coming out. The wonderful, wonderful illustrator, she's from Wales, England. We got a special edition. We got the fancy dancy book vault special edition with the foil cover and everything, and I'm just waiting to see it. So,
Yes.
and that takes a while to get here. So,
Oh, I
its
cannot wait.
release date is up in the air yet.
Okay, so we'll feature, I want to see that and we'll show you all that next time if you watch this podcast on video. So
Great.
I hope it'll be there by then. Yay.
Yeah.
So do you want to, do you have any other writing type news that you want to share?
Writing type news, all good, except again, this year, I was going to release something this fall and I decided to delay it because you cannot force the creative process, as we talked earlier. And I feel like I want to deliver the best cozy suspense mystery I can. So that's going to come out in the fall of 26. And then I have a really fun romantic comedies coming out the first one will be in February 26. But, to those indie writers thinking and planning, this is what it takes. Don't get dismayed by delays. Don't get dismayed by time that it takes. It's worth the effort. Do the best you can. Get your beta readers, get your feedback, do your editing. All that due diligence you do in the beginning, it comes back to you in the release.
Yes, yes.
How
And
about you?
yeah, and it's not an easy road, but the whole writing process really, doesn't matter if you're indie or traditional.
Yep.
Um, ugh. And then if you're under contract, right, for traditional, you've got that other layer of, please, I'm not going to disappoint my publisher and I'm going to get
Yep.
this done on time, my editor. Yeah, I don't have one of those. So anyway, I am in the middle of writing the fourth book in my Circle of Nine series. It'll be Circle of Nine, Mercy in the Mist.
Yay.
I've got my book cover designer contracted. I am redoing the book covers on all of the books at the same time to kind of change them up and
Congratulations.
refresh
They weren't
them.
bad to begin with. Congrats.
No,
That's fun. That's special.
it's actually a hard decision because I really like these covers, but
Uh-huh.
I feel like they're not fitting as well. And this happens, and this is also the joy of traditional or indie publishing, I should
Yep.
say, because we get to make those decisions when we feel it's necessary.
Good
So
for
I
you.
figure when a book's coming out, this is the time to do it. But I also need to, oh gosh, the housekeeping list. So if anybody can just feel my pain because they've had to do this too, like I'm going to redo the interiors because I had used ages ago. Do you guys remember Create Space? I feel like I'm saying MySpace, which is even older, but no. CreateSpace was the company that would design the interiors of your book if you didn't know what you're doing, and help feed it into the publishing systems as a print on
Yep.
demand, right? Way back. So my files are like the old CreateSpace, like when that closed and folded into KDP, I got my files, but they don't actually talk really well to the software I own. I think they're all InDesign files, so I can have somebody,
Sure.
use those for me too if I wanted to hire somebody. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do those myself. But gosh, oh, so many housekeeping
Jeez.
things, right?
That's a lot. That's a
It is a
lot. Good
lot.
for
It is.
you.
But I'm
Well,
excited about it. I'm excited about it. So Circle of Nine, Mercy in the Mist, and that title was a lot easier to come by than the title for my mystery novel. I got to tell you, I really agonized over that one. So
well,
I was happy.
let me tell you, to your point, Mercy in the Mist and the housekeeping. I keep this quote a couple quotes next to my computer as I do podcasts and work. This is a top one, top five. The cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea. So, speaking to your housekeeping, the mist, it works. So you're putting in the sweat equity, right, to deliver books that you think will be the best they can be, updated with, like you say, fresh covers, and then they will support your new book coming out.
Exactly. And then I had to think about, what do we call the old ones? Because I still have book stock. Do we call those classic? The classic cover?
Classics.
And like, what do is there a phrase?
There
Somebody
is.
somebody send us a message. I can't think what it is. If there's a phrase that I should use as I am offering these as at a discount, right? The old
Right.
covers.
I want to say I've seen Heritage as well.
Heritage, that could work.
Yeah, classic or heritage editions. And, I'm going to end up doing that too with the Backyard Model Mysteries up here. I'll end
Mm,
up repackaging them and redoing covers and adding recipes, I know I'll end up doing that when the fourth one comes out. I'm
yes.
thinking of doing a novella for Christmas 26,
Oh,
just
that'd be
because I
so
love
fun.
the character and I don't want to step away from her, but I'm moving into a couple different genres. But
Yeah.
she's going to be my number one, she's just very special and the whole series is special to me.
And I love Christmas novellas. I think that's fun because at Christmas time, that's about all we've got time to read, when we're
Right,
running around doing stuff.
right.
So,
Well, thinking of that, it might be Christmas 25. It may be Christmas 25 that I end up doing that just
ooh.
because that's pure pleasure for me going into her world and writing about her in a short novella, story is just something I would probably enjoy more than anybody else.
Well, and I highly doubt that because I really enjoy the characters of the story. So, um, excuse me. Sorry. So I kind of forgot how much I love my cast of characters because I hadn't hung around with the circle of nine people. Like
Yes,
they're all very, very real to me.
yes.
But I hadn't been in that world for so long. So it's been really fun immersing myself in that world for a little bit of each day as I'm moving toward my word count, my goal to get it.
Do you have a word count goal every day?
I don't have one every day. I feel like that's too much pressure, but I kind of figured out like my really like must have the rough draft done by date, which is rapidly approaching. I basically need to write about 20 hours a week to hit that.
Oh,
I write about 500 words an hour.
wow.
Um, and not always, but it averages out because those days where you know exactly the scene and it's in your head
Mhm.
and you just need to like type as fast as you can type. So it averages out to about 500 words an hour, which it's a it's easy enough to like calculate. And then of course editing time and formatting time and all of
Right,
that. So
right.
yay. But yeah, so and part of the thing too is I've been roaming a little too much and that has cut into my and I always have such high hopes, and I'm sure everybody else does this too, where I bring my computer along and I'm gonna carve out time to write. But we were in Spain for about 10 days in February, which was wonderful. Nice break. I did a little bit of work there, but it was just other work to just keep things moving for my clients, whatever. then came home on what I've been jokingly referring to, but it really isn't a joke, the plague ship, the
Oh,
airplane. Everyone was coughing. So, and the man behind us was just a viral, I don't even know what, like just, yeah, it just like if there had been a cloud around him
typhoid
knowing
Ken,
his
as they
virus.
say.
And yeah, like, so of course, then I got sick like 3 days after, or 2 days after I got back. So you can still hear it in my voice. That was more than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
But I was well enough to go then to Left Coast Crime in Denver. And I just got back on Sunday from that. So I've been home a couple of days. And I joke that, you've been to conferences like this too, where you get home and you're like, I have a hangover from this conference, not from
yeah,
drinking, but just
yes,
like, yeah. Wonderful
yeah,
conference. Glad I went, learned a lot, really met so many wonderful crime, thriller, suspense, mystery authors. Really nice size conference. So if you were to compare it, say you like going to BoucherCon, which is really big, this is a really nice, smaller conference where you don't have trouble finding people for the most part. Like say there's somebody you want to meet. If you just hang out in the main area long enough, you will probably see them walk by. It's just not as huge. So
right.
that was delightful. It was my first one, and so many people were there that you and I both know,
Yeah,
and so many people that I've only seen on Zooms or, virtually. So it was like, I feel like I know you, but I know I've never met you in person kind of thing. So that was
right.
fun. That was
Yeah,
great.
great. And look, the pictures looked amazing.
If you write in that genre or you're a fan, because this is also for readers. If you're
Yep.
a fan and you want to take a little fun trip with some of your reader friends, it's a really, really nice conference. Yeah. So there, a little too much roaming. Now I got to get back to work. Yeah, yeah. So, what about you? Have you been mostly home
I've
or
I've been
planning?
home working. I'll be at Lake Fly doing you know me, I'm all about short descriptions and log lines. So I'm doing that class. I'm teaching that class again at Lake Fly. I will be at Killer Nashville, and then I'll be at the Wisconsin Writers Association conference in Stevens Point this year.
Okay.
That's my main appearances, and then I hopefully will fill in. So, I'm gonna be working a lot this year, writing time.
Yes.
So I purposely just said, I'm homebound mostly and gonna get a lot of things prepared for 26.
Yeah, and I don't have any more travel coming up until BoucherCon in early September.
That's New Orleans, right?
That's New Orleans this year. And then I'm potentially going to Author Nation, which is the old, it was 20 books to 50K in Vegas. To be honest, I'm waiting to hear if I get chosen to speak. Now,
Nice.
it's a long shot. They get so many proposals and people who, have a lot of really awesome experience. But I thought, gosh, I would love to go to that and not have to pay all my own expenses. They do
I
cover
know.
celebrities. Yeah.
I know you had enjoyed it. I keep getting their emails. I'm on the fence about that one. I do have to add one more thing. We have Wispresso Cafe with Wisconsin writers coming up this Saturday, our first one at 10 o'clock. It's just an hour to log in and say, hey, this is who I am. Nice to meet everybody. It's a Zoom conference with Lori Shear, media
Oh, that's
goddess
fun.
and writing instructor. I'm just the regular person in attendance. She's the goddess.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you want to stop in, it'll be tomorrow. This airs on Friday. It'll be
Yes.
tomorrow morning on WWA at 10 a.m. Central.
I'll put that in the link in so that if
Right.
people catch this on Friday in time or early Saturday, they can come on over to that. Okay, so we're going to talk about this charity today, which is near and dear to my heart, just because I'm one of the co-founders, sort of, kind of. It was really my husband who founded this charity. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but it's called the World Orphan Fund, which I know also TK is aware of as well, and probably has followed some of our adventures stories as we've traveled around the world. But I think it's important for people to understand the genesis of some of these charities, especially when they're small, the way we are. We all know the big ones, right? Doctors Without Borders, Samaritan's Purse, Red Cross, the ones that just operate in this space a lot. But my husband, RJ, came home from a mission trip, 2010,
Wow.
and had this idea that, we could leverage our Christmas card list, our friends, Facebook and such, to just do one small project a year. And that was initially the goal, was he had been at, I should, explain where he'd been. He'd been at the largest orphanage in Honduras. At that time, it had about 600 kids. It doesn't have quite that many now. I think it's in the fours, like mid fours, like 450. And we just saw a tremendous need. And he said, look, it's not going to be big. And that is where we should cue the laugh track. Yeah. We're just going to do one thing. Like we've
You
got,
are blessed.
yeah, yes. Yeah, I'm not complaining. It may sound a little like
Yes.
complaining. I don't mean it to sound like
No, I
complaining.
know. No, no.
This has been this amazing thing that
Yeah.
it's almost hard to describe how this has grown. But we were just going to do one thing. Like we were going to support one teacher, maybe dig one well, or, help with a classroom or a dormitory or whatever. And basically we owe it all to our professional friends, our personal friends and family, the network of people that we had, as you do, as anyone does, responded so well. But mainly, we were at a point where we were getting a little fed up with the high overhead of charities we were supporting. So,
Yes.
so we wanted to create a charity that was no overhead, or the overhead wasn't paid for by donations. We cover our own overhead. So we never ask for donations for overhead. And we pay all our own expenses when we travel. So does our board. Everybody that goes to check out the different places where we donate money, always pays their own way. And we're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid any salaries or anything. We just all volunteer. And we've got such a wonderful board. We have people who are energy experts because we work on projects for sustainability like solar, because energy is so expensive in a lot of other countries. Like if you think your electric bill is high, whew, you should see how much it costs to like power an entire, children's home or orphanage. But we wanted to work in the children's space and help these vulnerable kids. And there's a lot of countries that don't have like a foster care system. And so any kids that are either removed from the home or abandoned or whatever, they end up in children's homes. So, and some of them are more dormitory style, which is not, the best way to raise kids, of course. And some are more like what we call casitas or family style living. So they might all be together, but it's more like looks like more like foster care with parental units, and they keep sibling groups together, but it varies country to country. So we started out with just working in Honduras, and it has expanded. Now we've worked in 15 countries, and currently we have projects going in, oh gosh, I'd have to count it up, but like I think it's 9. But we've done more than 200 projects, so many different things.
The World Orphan Fund is truly, truly something, like you say, it's from the heart.
Mhm.
You have no administrative overhead, and your initial goal was to solve one problem. And now look at what you've been able to do,
Right.
which, is truly, truly incredible. And thank you for doing that. And it's a tough subject. I mean, nobody wants to talk really about orphans. They don't have a big fancy lobby behind them for, helping children who have terrible circumstances in life. These are people who are fragile and vulnerable, and they need kindness and goodwill. They need that person to step in and help, and you guys did. So thank you and congratulations for all your hard work.
Thank you. And and the thing is, we've gotten more out of this than we've put in, and it's a lot of hard work for sure. But we've learned so much, and we partner. And I should mention, we partner with people locally. We go in, we look at what the needs are. Often, other people refer us to places that might need assistance, and we go in and we talk to them and say, like, what is your biggest problem? What are you looking to change? It's more the question of what do you wish you could do. Sometimes they don't have their basic needs met, but most of the time our goal really is like paradigm shifting stuff. It's like we really wish we could do this wonderful therapy, or we wish we could educate children here versus, the school system here is really bad. So we wanted to have a better,
I
school.
remember when you got coats. You were getting coats for
Oh,
children, I believe, in Ukraine.
yes, yes. Well, the power
Yes.
grid got knocked out there. So that in the
Yes.
children's home, Ukraine in particular is a terrible situation. They had a fairly high orphan population before the war, but all those children's homes that were in the east, as Russian troops invaded, though they had to evacuate to
Yes.
other homes in the west, which then were either doubled or tripled in size. And so there's a lot of kids there, and they really didn't leave with anything. Like they had to get out. So they didn't have things. But with the power grid being unreliable at best, the children are cold and they've been sleeping in these coats. But what I love even better is that there is actually the manufacturing facility for these coats is in Ukraine. And so not only are we giving coats to kids who need them, we're providing jobs to people who had, the infrastructure of their previous job wiped out. And they
Wow.
have relocated. So they're called internally displaced people. And so they are now living where they never used to live. And they're like, I need a job. And so people who had these kind of skills now are making the coats. So it's kind of like the perfect investment in a way,
Right.
because it's so multi-layered. But we tend to focus, so we do a lot of emergency needs. Now that falls under our emergency needs heading. Often there's food assistance that's happening in Ukraine, also though happening in East Africa. We do a lot of food assistance in Uganda and Kenya, also in Tanzania. We work in Rwanda as well a little bit. We've had projects in Ethiopia. We don't currently, but we do those countries in Africa. Otherwise, then we're sort of focused on Central and South America, Guatemala, Honduras, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, and also Mexico. But then people, we get the question, why don't you do anything in the United States? We do. So foster care, aging out of foster care is an issue that we're concerned with. And so we have partnered with an organization in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that helps kids there to transition to adulthood, because that's a really rough road for kids
Yeah.
who have been in the
Yeah.
system here. So it's not just other countries, but
Wow.
so we, yeah,
Wonderful job, and can't say enough about, your purpose and mission and ability to help people, children, not just people, children who need
yes.
it.
Well, and one thing that's important is we do not ever give money if someone from our board, or maybe even a trusted advisory board member, have visited the place where the money is being donated, because we've run into situations where you learn a lot in person. And there have been a few times where then there were situations where we wouldn't donate the money. The children were not being well cared for and were in fact, perhaps being used for labor, or we try to impact change where we can, but we also are good stewards of the money that's being donated to us. That's important to note. So, I mean, we really have four main areas. We like to work on sustainability. That sometimes is water projects. We've raised the level of a dam on a reservoir, for instance, so that an orphanage in Honduras had enough water for their crops for the dry season. It wasn't expensive, wasn't incredibly hard. It was just one of those things you're like, wow, the return was so quick, so that then they didn't have to buy food during the dry season to feed, the kids at that orphanage. Or solar projects, lots and lots, like I had mentioned before, solar projects. And we partner with other entities, other governments, to get that done sometimes. We talked about urgent needs, sometimes it's medical things, sometimes it's food. We jump in when there's like, we are out of food. Something happened and the kids, we've got one more week left, that kind of thing. So then we donate for that. We do a lot of therapy, special needs type things. The center in Guatemala, I'm going to mention two projects in particular. Guatemala, we have the Walker Center for Childhood Development. It came about because we were realizing that kids under 5, if they get the therapy that they need to overcome the trauma, the delays, the malnutrition, all the things that put them behind age level, if they get that therapy before age 5, the children's brain is a real malleable thing. You can bring them back up to like age level, grade level, and back to, the health that they should have, so that they then can reach whatever potential they
Right.
can in their life. So that's wonderful. And right now, and a huge expansion there is going on. Cannot wait for that to be celebrated later this year, when we're doubling our space there. And
Wow.
the need is there. We also have
Yeah.
mobile units that go out to children's home to do this therapy. And then we train the caregivers to continue on, right?
Right.
So that the kid might have therapy one day a week, but then the caregivers know how to do the physical therapy or work with the kids with speech or occupational therapy for the other days. Also,
Right.
trauma-informed care, trauma therapy, because the kids often, I can't even imagine a case where a child who has had the adults in their life fail them does not have some sort of trauma that needs to be addressed so that they can become healthy adults,
Right.
and not cycle back, with that.
Right. Right.
And
And like, yes, breaking, right? Like you say,
yeah,
continuing the treatment and then hopefully breaking bad cycles and moving forward with positive cycles and treatment and care and compassion
right.
and
Healthy adults.
education. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some adoption support there too. Native Guatemalans are adopting children. And then if you're adopting children with some special needs, it helps to have support, right? Anybody who's
Right.
got any special needs kids, doesn't matter what country you live in, you need a good network of people to help. And then the other thing is life skills and education. So just like foster care here in the United States, when kids age out of children's homes in other countries where they've perhaps lived in a very sheltered environment in a country that is a rough place to live as an adult, well, and particularly as a child too, but as they age out, sometimes they don't have the skills yet. The ones that
Right.
we kind of give our teens, that graduating responsibility, because it maybe wasn't safe to let these kids kind of off campus to the
Right.
neighboring town, whatever. So we work with, we have a program, it's a transition to adult program in Honduras. That's one of our bigger programs too. I'm just really, I don't know, I guess I just didn't expect it to be what it is. And
Right.
so we're so amazed at the donors year in, year out, creating these wonderful, wonderful programs. And we couldn't do it without this wonderful network of people who are consistently helping every time we ask. And I do have to say, oh my gosh, and this is like kind of a faith thing, and not everybody maybe, okay, maybe it's serendipity, maybe there's other things happening. I don't know, whatever you believe. But every time we get to the point where we're like, there's this thing presented to us, there's an opportunity to do something really, really good, and there's a need, but we have no idea. It's not something that we've budgeted for or fundraised for. Every time there's like
Mhm.
an angel donor who comes through that we didn't anticipate, and there's like a check in the mail, or somebody calls or responds to something and says, I'll cover the whole thing. Or like, what would half of this building be? I can do half. People say, oh, you're doing such great work. And we're like, you don't understand how much we get out of this and how
Yeah.
much this has taught us about the world. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I would believe it. And I would believe that, your purity of purpose there. And, like you say, you can have your own faith and your own belief system, but to me, it's pray always, go forward with faith, go forward with praise, and you never know.
And to be honest, like, I just can't believe how often this has happened. I actually feel like I almost should write like a little bit, like maybe a short story or book
I
about.
was just going to say someone should write a story or a book about this.
Well, and the other idea I had too was to take some of these teens, and as an exercise with them, have them write their stories and have it in Spanish and in English, particularly the teens in Honduras, just for an understanding. It's hard to, unless you visited frequently or lived there, to understand the difficulty of making your way in a country that has that much violence. So,
Well,
um,
and I 100% agree because their stories are important. I taught college and it was for a lot of adult returning students or, students who'd had a rough start and they wanted to try again in class. And it was intro to college writing, it was,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they had a journal exercise. And I always thought I would never betray any student's confidence at all. But I always thought, there's a book here. Everyone's individual experience of what got them in the seat, their motivation, their difficulties would have been a fabulous book. And
yeah.
that was just right in Southeast Wisconsin, right? I
Oh,
mean, there's a
for
lot of
sure.
stories, yeah.
And I would read that kind of book. I would love to read that kind of book. So I just think that story, particularly like memoir-esque, story really, really brings us all together. The sharing of story, like we say, it either reflects back experiences to us like a mirror that help validate our own life experiences, or it opens a window or door to something that creates a level of empathy and understanding,
Right.
and it really, really kindness to others, that that, what's that saying, you never know what someone else is going through, kind of thing.
You- And to have this conversation come full circle, there's writing changes you. Whether you write a paragraph in a journal a day, or you decide to write a short story, you decide to take on a full novel because you have a motivating purpose to do it. It, there's nothing that AI can replace in that task. because it's therapeutic. You get your thoughts on paper, things that may haunt you and traumatize you. If you get them out on paper and you're able to analyze them and discern them through a distance, you can recover, you can analyze why you behave such that in that way. There's so many things that writing can do for you, whether you take a pen to paper, whether you do it on a computer. It changes you in many
Mhm.
positive ways, I think, and I will always believe that. I got a master's degree, I taught college writing for a number of years, I wrote my own books. I've been a reader since I could,
Right.
since I could open a book. It just changes you and educates you, and I think makes you more empathetic.
Yeah, very much so, is the therapy value of that. And you don't
Yes.
have to ever share your
Nope.
writing. But
Mm.
putting things down, I don't know, it's I always recommend it. Like you say, I work with younger kids than the age group that you taught, with workshops. And I'm always saying, your voice matters.
Right.
And, really that's kind of really a great place to wrap up too, because all the people that we meet, all the children that we meet, there's so many people doing good work around the world. It's really one child at a time. You have to take every victory, and be happy, that you're having that impact, because you never know what that one person will end up doing in their life. And we're all so interconnected. We really are. And it's so important to remember that. Good for you
Right.
too. The things that you did with teaching and
Oh,
providing the encouragement to put things down on paper. I mean, yeah, I know it was a job, but if you don't do it with enthusiasm, which I know you
yeah.
did do it with enthusiasm, I mean, it matters.
You
So
know, it's
look at
amazing what a smile, a positive word, just helpful feedback. It's amazing how that can help somebody. When you go to the grocery store, a smile and a chat with the clerk, even if they're having a rough day, just spreading that positivity. That's why I write books for readers who want to laugh and escape. And I believe that, I just want to share positivity and encouragement and the written word with people.
Yeah, I
You know?
agree. So thanks so much for letting me take our airtime today to do this little shout out for the World Orphan Fund. I don't talk a lot about the World Orphan Fund in my professional world. It comes up sometimes. I mean, but it doesn't come up all the time, and I don't bring it up all the time. So
Right.
this is my chance, I guess, to use this platform to say, hey,
Well,
this other side of my world that's very different from my writing world, but they do intersect a little bit once in a while. So
well done. Thank you. And, may you continue to be blessed in many, many ways to help all of those children.
yeah, and I continue to be amazed, and we couldn't do it without the people who have decided that this is the place that they like to donate money. There was the idea of something, and everyone else around us made it into what it is, today. So thank you. Thanks.
Great.
And then we'll be back with our normal programming, our regularly scheduled programming next month, where we'll continue our series on indie publishing. So we'll be back with you on that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.